That was your cue to turn somersaults, shout, jump. I'm telling you, it's a new day. It's a new season for some of you. You just need to, look, here's the problem. Some of you, your heart is sick. Even as a believer, your heart is sick because hope has been deferred. What you were believing for has been put off, and so somewhere in there you have started to lose hope. And without hope, you can't operate in faith, because faith is the substance of things hoped for. How can you walk in faith if you don't have hope? If I'm not hoping for something, then there can't be faith that I'm operating in. And God works by faith, not by sight. We do not live as the righteous by sight, but by faith. We believe for what we cannot see, but what we hope for. But hope deferred makes the heart sick. Unrelenting disappointment. You know, the enemy will just keep telling you, God's disappointed you again. God doesn't love you. You're His stepchild. He doesn't hear your prayers. And he'll tell you all this stuff, and yet God is working behind the scenes. God is moving. But this is the problem. When God is working behind the scenes and you're making bad choices, you're actually hindering you arriving to the future that God prepared for you, which is the future where your dream and the thing you're hoping for is fulfilled. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. Look at your neighbor and say, stay with the preacher. I know my clock is wrong. It has to be. Stay with me. Let's say the three aisles right here are paths. They're different paths that we could walk on. And we're walking in life, and God has given us a vision, a dream. We have a prayer. We have a hope. We have something we're hoping for. As we come to the different paths and we're waiting, those of you that have been reading the devotional book that we've been challenging you, the 40-day Soul Fast book, I encourage you to get it and read it. We've sold out, ran out, but you can still order them at the Christian bookstore. You can get them, if you have an e-reader, you can download from Amazon for about $8. We're going straight through every day, so today we're on day 7. But day 5, did any of you read that favorite word called patience? That characteristic. You got to read day 5 if you haven't read. But I love what the author talked about, the Chinese bamboo. Did anybody read about that? I found that mind-boggling. Here's what she wrote about the Chinese bamboo. I didn't know this. The seed is planted for the Chinese bamboo and put in the ground, and then for 5 years it is watered and nurtured. 5 years with no sprout. No sight of any growth for 5 long years. And then after 5 long years, the seed that has been watered, the seed that has been nurtured, all of a sudden, after 5 years, in 6 weeks, the Chinese bamboo sprouts up and grows 60 feet tall within 6 weeks. Suddenly, it happens. Now think about the person that planted it. You rotten seed, just... That's what the enemy does to us. He causes us to kick our seed. You know how you kick your seed? God doesn't hear me. I stink. God's not hearing me. Here's what we do. No one really cares. Things will never change. You know what you're doing? You're kicking your seed. When what God wants you to do is keep watering it. Keep prophesying over it. Do you know you can prophesy to yourself and to your own destiny and to your own seed? I don't need to be in church to prophesy. I just prophesy to myself. I look in the mirror and say, you got a calling on your life. Man, we're out of time. And Carrie's got some, I need Carrie to, Lord help us. Okay, we're going somewhere. I'm just thinking, I got a text between the services. Some of you don't even know all the story of what's happened, but during the winter we've been sowing crazy seed. I've been sowing crazy seed, and God gave us a crazy opportunity all of a sudden at this springtime. I don't know. We had an informative meeting about this. Some of you may still not know, but we have a sheet that we handed out at the meeting. But I don't know if you know this, but under our canopy and our umbrella, there is now a Faith Assembly of God Plummerville. And so now we have not one location, but 3 locations. Of course, Highway 36, we restarted recently, and that's where Pastor Paul is at. And then all of a sudden, just laid in our lap, Faith Assembly of God, Plummerville. We sent no people. They're operating with their own finances. But I got a text between services. The sound man texted me a picture of them worshiping. And about halfway through the service, they had a brand new family that they had never seen. 3 adults and 2 children walk in. And he was just saying, I'm pumped up. We have 65 today. And just... Thank you, Lord. You know, I stand in the mirror and I say, God, this is what I prophesy back over my life, what you said to me. You said, I'll raise you up and I'll use your life to create. I'll use your life to establish things in my kingdom. I prophesy to myself that you'll go to Africa and you'll hold healing crusades and people will be healed. And then when the enemy tries to make my heart sick and watch this, there's 3 things that you got to ask yourself when your heart starts getting sick. Can I see? Can I hear? Can I remember? Sometimes when your heart is getting sick, it is hard to be able to see and be able to hear, but you can always remember if you choose to. So if the enemy comes and he starts trying to make my heart sick and my sight gets a little blurry, spiritually speaking, and my hearing gets a little blurry, in other words, I'm having a hard time seeing God, I'm having a hard time hearing God. Anybody ever been there? There's one thing that you can do. You can choose to remember. And when you start remembering what He's done in the past, you know what all of a sudden starts happening? You start prophesying to yourself and your hearing gets better and your sight gets better. Woo! And if my heart's starting getting sick, all of a sudden it's like a good heart pill. Starts getting better. So I remember when I was in Africa and all of a sudden God gave me a word of knowledge and He said, somebody's hip is hurting. Somebody's hip is in pain, and if you'll come right now, God will heal you. And so there were about 3 or 4 people that came up, but there was one lady in particular, and she hobbled up to the front, and a few of us went over to pray for her, and she just laid out in the carpet floor there because it was one of the city churches there in Africa. And as she laid there, I just felt like God was saying, I'm doing surgery. And I didn't even know what her situation was. I just knew she had a hip problem, obviously, because she hopped. I said, God, just do surgery, just do surgery. And then my brother, through technology today, who's full-time missionary over there, texts me back a few weeks later and says, by the way, the lady that came and she laid out on the floor for quite a while, God must have done surgery because they had x-rays where there's a tumor in her hip. But when she went back to have the surgery that was already scheduled, they did x-rays before the surgery and there was no tumor. And so I say, when the enemy's trying to make my heart sick, I remember when you took the tumor away. When the enemy tries to make my heart sick, Laura's mom passed away suddenly at the age of 40. No forewarning. Healthy, and then one night she quit breathing and was gone. And so of course the enemy would want to make her heart sick, my heart sick. But I also remember the time when her mom was just maybe a year or 2 before that. She was in horrible back pain. She was a beautician, and so of course she bent over, she used her back a lot. She was in horrible back pain, and we were having a prayer meeting because we were about to have revival. And the prayer meeting, we just decided to have revival before the revival. And so particularly I remember it was in our home church, and she was standing about right over here. I can remember, devil, you try to make my heart sick, but I may not be able to see and I may not be able to hear real good, but I can remember. And I remember we all gathered around her as she was standing, her arms lifted, believing God for healing her back. And we prayed for her back. And after prayer, she said it was like hot heat. She felt hit her back and come flowing through her back, and her back was completely 100% well. I remember when he reached down in the pit and I was running from him, but he ran to me and he caught me. When I can't see and I can't hear, you got to choose to remember. Because your bamboo seed may lay for 5 years, I don't know, but spring is coming. And I just got a word for somebody this morning. Spring is here. Your 6 weeks is happening right now. It's about to sprout up. And when it sprouts, it gets big. Oh, the tent in Pangburn. I just heard a couple of people showed up after the prayer meeting was over for prayer and healing. What are we doing? What's going on? There's a tent between Albion and Pangburn. What are we doing? We're crazy. We're just dreaming. We're just dreaming for souls. We're dreaming that the drug culture will be confronted. I forgot about the time. The drug culture in the Pangburn area will be confronted by people that really believe that God can do anything. And we're believing that meth houses will be shut down because the makers will get saved, born again, healed, set free, and delivered. And so I don't just want the people they're selling to. I want the people selling, making. Dreaming. God doesn't want us to be a needs culture, but a dreaming culture. Needs only. God, I need. God, I need. He already knows. He already knows before you ask. But He wants you to ask. So here's my needs. Now, what is it you want, God? If you would spend more time asking what He wants than telling Him what you need, woo, what an adventure you're about to take off in. Carrie, come here real quick. Can we do this quick? Can you talk fast like your mom? No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I love Jackie. Carrie is one of our young ladies who came up in our youth group and made a great choice as she went off to college in Jonesboro. As they were picking out their sororities and fraternities, she chose Chi Alpha. For those of you who don't know, Chi Alpha is the Assemblies of God ministry to our secular colleges that reaches out to our college young people, not only from our AG churches, but for all students. And in fact, we know that the world actually is coming to our secular colleges here in America. And so we have missionaries to the college campuses that lead a ministry called Chi Alpha that Carrie made a good choice to get involved in, and now she's made an even greater choice to go somewhere with Chi Alpha. I believe you're going to Bolivia, is that right? I don't think you were here, but I was just praying about how God has called Cersei Faith Assembly not only locally but globally, and out of my mouth came, and I never even really thought about this country, but Bolivia, and I didn't even realize that's where you were going. Tell us a little bit about it.
I'm going with Chi Alpha. It's the group in Jonesboro. It's our first year having a Chi Alpha, and so the Fayetteville Chi Alpha team invited us to go with them. And what we're going to do is set up Chi Alphas over the Bolivian, I guess, campuses, because Chi Alpha has recognized the outrageous percentage of people like growing up in church and then getting to college and be like, okay, it's like a 66% percentage that you grow up in church, or you get brought into church like I was when I was 11, and then get to college and
done.
Yeah, you're just done. And so the ministry itself is more about just lighting the way. And so we're going to do that on Bolivian campuses, and I think it's 3 or 4 different locations across Bolivia. And Bolivia is South America's poorest country. And so the other thing that we're going to do, it's called a prison ministry, because in Bolivia, due to either financial circumstances or just having basically nowhere else to go, if your mother or father goes to jail, you go with them if you're a child. And so this means not only do 3- and 4-year-olds live in prison behind the bars. It's not like normal. We were getting informed, and it was, these kids were talking about how they live in one room with one bed and with their parents, and their mom might have 6 or 7 kids that live in this one room with them, and they get one plate of food and to share with everybody, and that's where they live. And a lot of them have even grown up and were born in these situations until their parents are taken or finish their sentence. And so what we're going to do is go and get the kids out for a day, and we're just going to help them and like allow them to experience the freedom that they've never experienced before.
That's awesome. Proud of you, Carrie. Choices. Choices. You can go to college, join a sorority or fraternity, and drink all the time and barely make it to class, or you can go to Bolivia and make a difference. See what I'm saying? Choices. It's our gift. I choose not just my needs, but what do you want, God? What is it you want? I can tell you what He wants. He wants you to co-labor with Him. Your life matters. Stand with me.